going to call our meeting to order now. We'll begin with a roll call vote. And just as a reminder for our members that we did agree to rotate by one. So in case you notice a difference in the order tonight, that's why.
Mr. Updegrove?
Here.
Mr. Hemingway?
Here.
Mrs. Deeroff? Ms. Hogan? Ms. Denon? Mrs. Denon? Here. Oh, Mr. Brophy?
Here.
Ms. Nyman? Mrs. McWhirter? Here. Mr. Foose?
Here. Can everyone please stand now for a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Thank you. Next, we have a welcome from the principal, Mr. Andy Rupert.
Thanks, Mr. Foose. Just wanted to welcome everybody to Middle School East. I want to take a quick minute to thank my custodial staff for the setup and also our great IT department for setting up the audio. And Mr. C, thank you very much. As always, doing a great job. And student reps, thank you for your service and welcome. It's my pleasure to introduce to you an orchestral octet that's going to be directed by Mrs. Anita Boyer. And I wanted to, I had asked her to just make sure that we get all the names. So excuse me for reading from the paper, but I don't want to miss anybody. So on violin, we've got Ella Armstrong, Ethan Frank, Cassidy Nuss, Peyton Thomas. And violas, Sarah Campbell and Aiden Eckman. Our cellos are Jacob Blatshaw and Anthony Shaponik. And on bass, we have Jack Burrell and Harry Gallagher. They are going to play two pieces for us, Postcards from Russia and Warrior Legacy. Thanks, Mrs. Students, great job. Thank you very much. As a father of a violinist that actually Mrs. Boyer taught many years ago, I won't tell them how many, Mrs. Boyer. Fabulous. I know the kind of commitment that it takes, and I applaud you for taking me up on the challenge that I had kind of given to you guys when you first started here, which was just get involved and do something. And one of the things that I can share with the board that I love about this school and this community is that people do get involved. We all know about our music programs, and we've had a fantastic musical performance. Many of you were out here, so thank you very much. I know many people came and saw the performance Mrs. Binkley, Mrs. Culver put on with the students Into the Woods. They just did a fantastic job. Some of the people here in front of us were in the cast. But beyond the music, just all the other things that students get involved in here, whether it's TSA, whether it's the YAG program that we work closely with the YMCA on. Just the many different things. You guys all give back to the community, whether you realize it in ways or not now. Down the road, I just think some of the lessons that you learn here, I hope you take forth with you and pass on to your kids. Fortunately for this guy, class of 1982, Boyertown, all right? There's a little item on the agenda a little bit later, and kind of gets to the point here of what I wanted to say about, I just wanted to thank everybody in the room. Many of you have helped me grow as an educator and as a human being, as a person. And students, honestly, I love working with you every single day. I'm really going to miss that a lot. All the different, just the different relationships that you get to build as you go through your life. Cherish them all. Just pursue like you are with this right here in front of me. Just watching the passion that you guys poured into that. That's what it's about. And that's why I became an educator. That's why I wanted to be here. And so thank you very much for sharing your lives with me. And thank you to everybody. I really appreciate it. It's just been a privilege being a Boyertown Bear.
I'm sorry, I don't have a microphone, but if there's no more supportive principal. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you. So thank you, everybody. Have a great meeting. Appreciate it.
All right, next on our agenda is the recognition portion, where we will tonight be hearing a presentation about the Foundation for Boyertown Education. Okay, yeah, I'd like to welcome, is that better? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fuß.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tessie Melcher, and I'm with the Foundation for Boyertown. My name is Tessie Melcher, and I'm with the Foundation for Boyertown Education. Thank you for having me this evening. For those of you who are new to the board, back in 2012 and 13, a group of community leaders and businessmen and women got together and decided that Boyertown was a little lacking and behind in the need for an education foundation. So a group of people got together, and in 2014, an independent board of directors was created, made up of business and community leaders, which make up today your education foundation. Greg Herb from Herb Real Estate is our board president. Rod Martin, Martin Stone Quarries, is our vice president. Sherry Waldman, Pottstown Health and Wellness Foundation, is our board secretary. Brian Snyder from Provident Bank is our treasurer. And then Sue Keown, chief quality officer at Tower Health. Nicole Manley, Ken Nice office. Frank Morgan, Morgan Financial, and Tracy Yergi, Reinhardt and Company make up the balance of our board of directors who do the work behind the scenes to make our foundation successful. The foundation also has an event team and a faculty advisory team made up of teachers and staff throughout the district that help us to bring funds to the foundation, then to the district. The mission of the foundation is to foster enriched educational opportunities and experiences for the students of the district by providing grants and enhanced learning opportunities by building strong schools, which will then strengthen our community. So to date, your foundation has raised just shy of $750,000 in our short existence from 2014 to present. Last year, we reached a milestone, raising over $200,000 just in 2019. We have committed ourselves to partnering with other nonprofits and organizations within the community to help us provide a larger array of programs and services to the students in our district. Some of those collaborations exist between Boyertown and Valley Community Parks They allow us to hold the Teachers in the Park program in their parks at no cost to us. It's a 6-week program that allows our students who are most at risk from losing what they've been taught the year before due to the summer slide. We had over 80 students enrolled in those programs last summer, and this summer we're looking to expand that program down to the New Hanover and Gilbertsville area as well, so that we can serve more students over the summer months. For the 3rd year, we've partnered with the Boyertown Music League to bring the Pennsylvania Philharmonic to both middle schools and through the 5th grade class throughout the district. We're able to come and see the performance by the Philharmonic at Middle School West. Art students from the high school and both middle schools provide tchotchke gifts that are given to the recipients of the Meals on Wheels program through the Boyertown Area Multi-Service. The different art clubs throughout those schools provide these gifts. They range from Christmas ornaments to Valentine's Day gifts. Sunglass cases were made by the 7th graders at Middle School West for the summer months. The recipients that receive these gifts are so appreciative. Many of those recipients are shut-ins, and getting a small gift from the students in the district just brightens their week, not just their day. I mean, they are really appreciative of this. And it's just another way that we can say thank you to the community for their support through the students. Another district collaboration that we have, the foundation partnered with the district to bring the first ever to the Boyertown District Pre-K Counts program. We secured a grant that enables 60 3- and 4-year-old students from across the district and surrounding areas to have a quality preschool education at no cost to the parents. So with those students, we are enabling them to be ready for kindergarten when they come to us. The second district collaboration that the foundation has with you is that we were able to partner on a communications and marketing person dedicated to providing the district with information out to the parents and the communities. As you all know, communications is a very important part in everyone's lives, whether it's business, school, or just for social purposes. The work that we do with this person enables our district and the foundation to tell their story to the community in a collaborative way, thus furthering both of our missions. Beginning in June of 2018 through the end of 2019, we were able to provide to the students over $120,000 worth of programs given back to the district that otherwise the students wouldn't have been able to have access to. Throughout, collectively, we funded over $200,000 worth of initiatives throughout our time as a foundation. Some other examples, when you were in elementary school, in music class, your favorite instrument was that recorder. We have students in the district who were unable to play those recorders because they had special abilities. We were able to work with Lori Freed at Colebrookdale Elementary and purchase recorders allowing all students of all abilities to be able to play those recorders. We will be having our donor dinner in May where we will showcase some of these students playing the recorder. So we will make sure that you get an invitation to that event so you can see firsthand how the dollars are being spent to help the students in the district. We've also funded at the high school a multicolor printing station which allows the high school TSA and tech ed students to produce t-shirts that are used at all grade levels throughout the school. They print t-shirts at the high school for many of your clubs, both elementary, middle school, and high school t-shirts are done at those printing stations. At the elementary and middle school level, we funded Osmos, which help the children learn collaborative thinking, cooperation, and problem-solving skills while teaching various subject matters such as math, reading, social studies, and science. We've also awarded several grants to the BEST program at the high school. The BEST program stands for Boyertown Employment Skills Training Program, which I would invite you to go see that program if you don't know what it is and see firsthand the awesome gains that these students are making every year. This program takes our life skills kids out into the community to learn and practice skills that they will need for employment once they graduate Boyertown. The program collaborates, again, with local businesses such as Argentos, Wendy's Flowers, The Grill Shop, and Big Lots have all agreed to be partner agencies, and we have students in those businesses with a job coach being taught skills that they will need to gain employment once they graduate. The goal of the program is to have these kids, once they complete the program, stay at their host business and work at the business after graduation. These are just snapshots of the programs and services that the foundation is able to provide to the district, and I would welcome any of you, if you would like to sit down and talk with me to learn more about the foundation and about the things we do and ways that you could help support the foundation in the work we do. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is public comment period number 1. Has anybody signed up? All right, we do not have anyone signed up for the first public comment period, so I will refrain from reading the blurb here. If anybody has signed up for public comment period number 2, I will go ahead and read that at that time. So the next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes for January 28th, 2020. Is there a motion? Ms. Denon, second by Ms. McWhirter. So we can do the minutes by a voice vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, so we have approved those minutes. Next item is the report of the president. I do not have a report this evening, so we'll move ahead to the treasurer's report. Sorry, we're going to move ahead to the treasurer's report next. All right.
Hello, for the January Treasurer's Report, I would like to highlight a few items. The local revenue received was approximately $2.3 million, of which approximately $1 million was local tax collections. $1 million was earned income tax for December, and $140,000 was in delinquent real estate taxes. And the one thing I would also like to note is that the remaining local tax collections will consist of interim and delinquent real estate taxes. As far as the state revenue, we received approximately $580,000. $500,000 of that was a special ed subsidy. Federal revenues was approximately $60,000, of which $46,000 was for Title I. And the January expenditures, amounted to approximately 11.7 million, of which 9 million was from salary and benefits, which consisted of 77% of the expenditures, which was a result of 3 pay periods within the month of January. And of which this would conclude my January highlights of the Treasury report.
All right, thank you very much. See if there is a motion to approve. Motion from Ms. Hogan, seconded by Ms. Steeroff. So we'll bring this, are there any comments or questions on the Treasurer's report? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Ms. Steeroff,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mrs. Denon? Yes. Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Mrs. McWhirter? Yes. Mr. Foos?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Next item is the Secretary's report,
No report.
followed by the Solicitor's report. No report. And on to the Student Representative report.
Good evening. Bash is performing the musical Mamma Mia on April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at 7 p.m. or on April 5th at 2 p.m. All tickets are being sold online at www.boyertownmusic.com. You will be able to choose your own seats and see what seats are available.
On Saturday, March 7th, West will be hosting the annual chicken dinner and show choir performance from 8 to 9 a.m. Please come out and support the Bash music program at this event. This is the largest fundraiser of the year.
Washington Elementary School is having their 3rd grade musical on March 17th from 7 to 8 p.m.
Congratulations to all of the Bash wrestlers. The Bears ended districts with 7 wrestlers continuing on to regionals. As a team, the Bears took 2nd place in the pack.
Congratulations to the 2019 PAC champion boys swimming team. With multiple first place swimmers and overall wins, both the boys and the girls swim team had a successful season.
The winter track team had a very successful trip to New York and a great end of their season, with 5 school records, 6 state qualifiers, 2 national qualifiers, and 3 meet champions. The girls came home with 4 golden batons and are now ranked 5th in the state in the 4x200 meter and set a new school record. The girls now have the 13th fastest time in the nation this year. The boys DMR qualified for states, as did the girls 4x2. States will take place this weekend.
Congratulations to the boys and girls basketball teams for qualifying for districts. The boys were seated 11th in the district and the girls team was seated 23rd in the district.
On Friday, Bash will have Minithon, which is themed Mario Kart. The school spirit is in full swing this week, with Monday being Character Day, Tuesday, or today, is Bikers versus Surfers. Tomorrow will be Grade School Day, Thursday will be Back to the Future Day, and Friday students will wear their Penn State apparel in preparation for the Minithon event.
Come out to support the Drama Club, which will be performing a murder mystery called A Murder is Announced. It will play on March 6th and 7th in the Freshman Auditorium at Bash, and it will be held at 7 on both days.
Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you very much for that. Next item we have is the Superintendent's report.
Mr. President, just a general announcement. Good news from the Budget and Finance Office. You'll get more detail, but today they opened the bids for Phase 2 of the Adam project, and the preliminary results show that they came in under the established budget, but I won't go into detail. You'll get that later. Moving on to Superintendent's report consent agenda. Overnight trips. It is the board's practice to approve and ratify trips taken by students that require overnight stays. Before I list those items for your approval, I do want to state that you will be receiving some information in the weekly report this week where we really need to discuss and get some guidance regarding out of the country trips, given the culture and climate right now that exists with health and safety. That we need to speak and talk to the board to get some guidance on whether we change our course of action with some of those that are coming down the pike. So that information, outlining some of those that are on the docket, we'll need to get some board guidance on how you want us to administratively treat those circumstances right now, given the health and well-being challenges that have been articulated. As far as recommended action, we have 3 trips. We're requesting the Board of Directors approve the following overnight trips. 3 Bash choir students to travel to Eastern York High School from February 27th through the 29th. The total expenses for this trip is $1,137. The district expenses included the registration, housing, transportation, and meals as listed, and then the non-district expenses were $300. We are also requesting for 110 Bash Middle School East, Middle School West youth and government students to travel to Harrisburg for the State Capitol building on April 16th through the 19th. And as you can see, the total non-district expense is $44,915, so no cost to the district. Third item is a trip for 5 Bash orchestra students to travel to Hazleton Area High School from March 11th through the 13th to participate in the PMEA Northeast Region Orchestra Festival. On that trip, the total non-district expense is $250. The total district expense is $930. And you have a settlement agreement that we're asking the Board of School Directors approve the confidential settlement agreement for student number 241073, which you previously received information on. We're also asking for the approval of policies 2020 and 913 for the first reading. Policy 2020 is an update to student expressions and distribution and posting of materials. Policy 913 was a non-school organizations, groups, and individuals. We're also asking for the second reading approval for policies 201, 204, and 208 for those. And then the item E would be for the Boyertown Area High School additions and renovations change order. They were requesting the Board of School Directors approve that change order, totaling a total cost increase of $8,500 that was discussed at committee meeting. Item number F for consent agenda is the Berks County Intermediate Unit 2020-2021 mandated school district services budget. If I recall, there was no increase this year to the cost of the school district. Item G is Berks County Intermediate Unit joint purchasing bids. Requesting the board authorize the purchase of the goods utilizing the Berks County Intermediate joint purchasing bids for the 2020-2021 school year. With that, we request approval of the consent agenda from the Board of School Directors.
Do I have a motion? Ms. Deroff, seconded by Ms. McWhirter. Do we do roll call for this one?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Updegrove?
No.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Ms. Deroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan? Yes. Mrs. Denon?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Mrs. McWhirter?
Yes.
Mr. Foos?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-1.
Moving to the itemized agenda, item A is the establishment of the supportive supervisory group and the creation of the following positions up under that group. The Dean of Social, Emotional, and Academic Learning, the Supervisor of Student Services, School Safety Coordinator, School Police Officer, Human Resources Manager, and Marketing and Communications Specialist. Inside your agenda is a summary again of those items. It is required by policy that because these are new positions, that these come before the board so that the actual FTE can exist. Significant to the changes here is that the Supervisor of Student Services position, the School Safety Coordinator, School Police Officer, the Human Resource Manager, and the Communication Marketing Specialist all have existing employees who will be moving and be changed to exempt category employees because of the supervisory duties that they are being tasked with undertaking. Exempt category status means that they are not entitled to overtime in conjunction with the supervisory status or significant responsibilities that qualify them to be designated as a supervisor. Those were checked and verified by HR with the requirements, both either by supervisory number and or other descriptors with HR and the solicitor for those categories requirements to be classified in that nature. So we request the board to approve this reestablishment of the Support Supervisor Service Group with those 5 positions to constitute the initial makeup of that group.
Do we have a motion for this item? Mr. Hemingway? Second, Ms. Hogan? Open it up to comments and questions. And as a reminder, this was originally presented at the February 18th Human Resources Policy and Parent Community Intergovernmental Committee meeting, and the board was given some additional information in the days after. Ms. Duroff.
Is this for all 5 of the 8 positions?
They, as presented, are the establishment of those 5 to exist. Yes. If you have a concern about a particular one, you can request that be pulled aside and acted upon individually.
Mr. Brophy?
Dr. Ben, you're within your obligation and rights to set up your organization and your management team to support your vision of the school district. 100% I support that. That's what you need to do, you should be doing. Some questions that have come to me especially around the SEAL position. And the question was, I've sent some of these questions in, so I hope you had a chance to look at them, is around the placement of the SEALs. And the question that came up was, what criteria were used to put the SEALs in their places? I understand that size is definitely a very well respected and understood way of doing that. But were other things looked at, like incidents, behavioral incidents in all schools, geocultural issues, or any other type of issues? Did they weigh in any way at all, or was it strictly on both sides?
So the answer to your end question is yes, but we have to start with the premise of how we got to this model. Going back to the conversations that started last year with regards to social emotional learning, it was presented to the board that we were not consistent and or meeting the standard for school counselor ratios as articulated by the American Society of School, I forgot the official name, I gotta get it right, it's not national. The American School Counselors Association, which recommends a 250-to-1 ratio. In fact, for instance, Gilbertville has, I think, 700 plus students this year. New Hanover has 600 plus students this year. We presented to the board that what we found is one, that 250-to-1 would be problematic for us with a staffing model to reach, but that we should make a good faith effort to get that number down. That as a superintendent who served in 4 different states, it is not uncommon to have a number that is least acceptable, not preferred, of in the 300s. In fact, I also provided to you all that the latest report showed the average in Pennsylvania was 380-to-1. We then analyzed our middle schools and secondaries and found that their ratio was pretty much about 350-to-1. So we established 350-to-1 or less as the target goal to meet that establishment. So each of the schools were provided a staffing model that provided them at least 350 or better to 1 counselor ratio. What evolved out of the conversation, as you heard last week from the principals, was that we gave them the option of that FTE to be used as a counselor, or in this case, because of the district's initiative, of what we call a Dean of Social Emotional Academic Learning. Those schools, which include Montgomery County and Boyertown located schools, Berks County located schools, because of Boyertown, articulated their desire to have a dean. And as the job was developed, you will see that it asked for social work, counselor, and or administrative back experience, and then with the certification for supervisory capacity. What the principals articulated to us is that that person actually can do more, and it actually helps the counselor because they are taking some of the workload off of the counselors of the additional duties that they're given. So in this model, we gave every school additional staffing. So in some cases, it seems to be that there was a perception that Montgomery County was getting staffing and other schools weren't. So for example, Earl only had a 0.5 counselor. Earl would now have a full-time counselor with a 314 with projected enrollment at that time to 1. I believe Colbrookdale added a 0.5. They would now be roughly 270 something to 1 ratio. So everyone is getting a ratio allocation that puts them, that their numbers are below the 350 to 1. So for example, because of the projected, I believe 600 roughly student population at Boyertown, that's why they have 2 FTEs now. That principal chose to have, instead of an additional counselor, the counselor and the SEAL position, which effectively still gives roughly a 300 to 1 ratio. So that was what was the starting point. If there was concern about 2 schools that are equal and budgetary limitations, we did look at it. And so you could talk, for example, if you talk about special ed, the question becomes almost like, well, it depends on what type of special ed. Like we took the emotional support classroom out of Boyertown and removing it into Gilbertsville. Because of the decreased number, just like we had done to Boyertown, he had smaller numbers. Now he had the larger numbers, more mimicking Gilbertsville. We flipped that school, that program back into the school that had lower numbers in a school to be consistent with our practices and how we treat it, whether you're in Montgomery County or Berks County. I also have, when you look at, the type of incidences that existed. So for example, I can tell you our school with the most number of special ed students is New Hanover. When they're broken out by speech support, learning support, hearing support, visionary support, or you're gonna go by percent of the population, but we also know in talking to our special ed program, it's also about the type of disability. So there's a whole lot of nuances that go into it. You also have to consider that you can't just, people think of special ed services, specialized services, is just special ed, but you also have up under that gifted. So the GEIP, because those gifted students get IEPs also. Well, guess who has the largest number of GEIP students? Gilbertsville. So again, the first premise was equal and equity treatment, and the formula provided by, we articulated in the last year to start the establishment. And then if there were some discrepancies or issues that we found, then we would drill down farther to distinguish who gets it in the absence of resources. So for example, I will tell you, you're approving the FTE, but New Hanover is only slated right now until we identify the final budget with funding to get a 0.5. If we don't find additional funding, they would start the year with 0.5. So there were other things looked at, but it's not as simple as just one nuance to look at. I don't know if that helps answer your question enough.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at was there was just more than one thing that was looked at, especially like numbers, because we did this with a numbers game. The bigger number, you get the extra spot, whereas there's a lot of other, like you've all said, subtle contributors to why you need these positions and why you're trying to get these positions. I just want to make sure that as we go across the board, we've looked at all the different schools and all their different, and our schools have a wide range of different needs, that all those needs were looked at and addressed as we assign these people. Well, that's pretty much you've answered that. You did look at all that, and I would imagine going forward you'll be monitoring that closely to see if the way we've distributed and the way we put it is actually the right way. We don't have to do any further moving around or
well,
improvements.
recall that part of the comment that I shared at the last meeting is part of what you saw was even the discrepancies at middle school. So pretty much this whole right-sizing process really was a K-8 conversation about equity and equality, in which they're not the same. One is about what a student needs, the other is about treating everybody the same. And right now, we have not treated the two middle schools appropriately. One has for years had class sizes that were upper 20s and the other was in the lower end. And what they did is I complimented them in their effort. They decided to step back and say, look, it's our total pool of middle grades teachers to try to address this. If they had not done it that way, we would have needed 2 more teachers to address the continued growth for class sizes, because numbers also still drive. But I do want to be clear, the first starting point was what we articulated, what we would be using from the get-go, which was the goal of getting that number to 350 to 1 ratio on the counseling and or social emotional staffing model to start with. And then if we had concerns about they're close, so for example, the one bubble school that we talked about a lot was Washington. Washington, if we added another, would be significantly lower in that ratio than anyone, because they're just kind of on that cuff of 440-something students. I'm doing this from memory, so don't hold me to it. So what we have done is, as you saw in it, well, you may not have read it yet, I sent you all the notes that show we're waiting for a grant from a community organization to pay for a contracted counseling service, an additional staffing that we use. The plan is to house that counselor at Washington. Either it's half-time, but then it would give us still kind of, that's really what they qualify for, kind of a half-time allocation. But while they're based there, we also, Ms. Torsia is looking at how they respond to issues at Cobrookdale and Earl, if needed also. But because of the size of Washington, we wanted that to be the base location, because honestly, their 444 comes close to being the same side of both, almost of Cobrookdale and Earl combined. I mean, yes, Cobrookdale and Earl combined. So, is it perfect? I would never tell you that. But there was more than just, you know, there was more to it, a lot of conversation, and we will continue to monitor to it because things do change. The 3 schools on Berks County side, and I would tell you I hate doing the Berks-Montgomery thing, they get additional funding because of Title I funding that the other schools don't get. And so there's always a conversation about how to effectively use that. But at the end of the day, we try to start with the premise of what is a sound approach that is about how we're going to staff our schools. And we, prior to you joining way back when Mr. Brees brought up, you know, have we really talked about what is our mechanism for deciding how we staff a school? And that's something that we have to, at some point I said in this district, so the board understands why are we bringing a staffing change to you? What is that system we're using that says we trigger another teacher? The only thing that we have that way kind of is our classes, because we have a system of a range that we try to stay within, which then will determine if we need more sections and a potential new teacher in a school. And then that's coupled with then a conversation of, okay, even if you have that need, do you have space? Which is a challenge we often run into.
Okay, thank you. That answers the question. Just one curiosity question, just for me, having not been on the board before. We're saying we're reinstituting the supervisor supportive program. Why did we stop it in the first place? I guess would be my question, having not been here before, that we need to reinstitute something.
So what I shared in that question, and you'll see in the notes, there were multiple people sent. I tried to compile it in one long email rather than separate emails that I got from multiple people. I can't speak to what was presented to the board, but it was done during the interim superintendent's tenure here. At some point, a recommendation. Those people who were in that group got moved into Act 93. The rationale why, how that helped, I'm not sure. I do know that doing that has a fringe benefit impact on us that we are trying to avoid by adding any more to the Act 93 status. So that's one of the reasons I went back to this existed. Let's go back and establish it, because I did not want to add more employee numbers to the Act 93 group.
It's just when I see a program being reinstituted, I'm curious as to why it was stopped in the first place. What was the reasoning behind it? And did we address that reasoning is what I usually like to look at.
Ms. Deeroff.
On the It'd be number 4 for the human resource manager. We just added or changed titles not too long ago for, I believe it was a secretary in there. Is this going to be this is going to be another person in there now? Because we were told then that it was because they did more of the work than a normal secretary would do or something. So is this a different person now, or is this the same person?
This is a different person, so we're not adding any people. We are reusing the same FTEs and repurposing them and how they're used. So there's not any additional staff, and it is a different person. And the point is, this person will no longer be a clerical position. It is a middle management position.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McWhorter?
I just wanted to comment to the fact that Dr. Benton has said many times, both when I've been in the audience as well as up here, that our counselors are overwhelmed. And if you look at the numbers right now, that the ratio of students to counselors is 600 to 1, which is a good reason for being overwhelmed. And with these changes that they're making, with very little extra cost to the district, the student to counselor ratio will be about 300 to 1. And this will also allow our principals at the bigger schools to have somebody there when they leave the building, as well as it gives them more of an opportunity to create a stronger culture and climate within their schools. So I just wanted to thank them for recognizing that there was a problem and working to fix it.
Seeing no other questions, move to roll call vote.
Mr. Updergrove?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Ms. Diroff?
Guess you can't come back to me.
Nope.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mrs. Denon?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Mrs. McWhorter?
Yes.
Mr. Foose?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Moving to the personnel section, you have more specifics in there, but I would like to point out we have 2 retirements. So I'll take a little point of privilege, Mr. President, to point out rather than just number. As you know, Mrs. Pitts will be retiring. She stepped into the CFO role, and upon further review and discussion, shared about the need for some adjustments for quality of life, but did agree after consultation with me to complete this budgetary cycle and give the district enough planning time to try to find a replacement. So we do want to recognize, I think when she came on, a lot of things moved to a place that created a lot more comfort, even with association and clarity as we move forward in managing our finances. At least 2 board members have commented about who have lived through the previous years, that even as we're not where we want to be, we're starting points are a lot better with deficits than they have been in the past. So the plan is working, chopping away at it. When I came on as superintendent, shared with you that it would be a multi-year process. So we do want to thank her, and as you heard previously, the other person who's had, I believe, about 14 years here at the middle school, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Torsha? Just here, Mr. Rupert has been 14 years here. 16 years, and I point that out because people often talk about a middle school as an interesting place to be. So if you survive 16 years as a principal in a middle school, we salute him. But Mr. Rupert will be retiring around early August. It is a little open-ended because we want to plan on, we look at the candidate pool and how we create a smooth transition process. So he's willing to try to work with us with regards to helping whoever is selected transition into the school. So that's why you don't have a total definitive date. But we do want to, if you don't mind joining me in thanking them for their service to the district. In our classified staff, we have 3 retirements, employments. We have 2 classified staff employment recommendations, 8 substitute staff recommendations. In the change of employment status, we have 3 professional employees and 4 classified staff employees. We have a request for leave of absence for 4 professional staff, 1 classified uncompensated leave, and then the list of appointment for mentor teachers. We request approval of the personnel actions from the Board of School Directors.
Do we have a motion for the personnel item? Ms. Deeroff? Seconded by Ms. Denon. Any comments or questions on personnel? Ms. Denon.
Yes, I also would like to thank Mrs. Pitts and say that it has been a pleasure working with you as the Finance and Facilities Liaison, and we will miss you greatly. I did not have that much interaction with you previously of the 7 years that I've been on the board, but I know that you have worked tirelessly and put in a lot of extra hours and time, and I really appreciate your care and dedication to this district, so thank you. And finally, I just would like to say congratulations to Mr. Rupert for his retirement. Mr. Rupert happens to be my neighbor, and we often have been able to talk about school things even before I got on the school board. And even though my children went to West, they did not go to East. There were some things that I was involved in at the middle school level, mainly youth and government, and he always was so supportive of any program that came along to his school. And anyone I talked to, when I would say, oh, where do your kids go, East or West? And if they said East, I said, oh, you have Mr. Rupert. And they would say, yes, we love him, he's the best. And that is, every single person I ever talked to said, yes, he is the best. So I just want to say thank you. It's, I'm sure it has been a wonderful career, and I really appreciate his dedication to the community of Boyertown, as well as his dedication to our school district. So thank you, Mr. Rupert.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes, I wanted to echo Mrs. Denon's thanks to Mrs. Pitts. Thank you, excuse me, for your service. And I wanted to say, as a parent of a middle school East student, I can personally attest that from parents to students, everyone does truly love Mr. Rupert, and the children or the students are very lucky to have him. He does put a lot of himself into the school, and we appreciate it greatly. Congratulations.
So similarly, I'm pretty bummed about both of these because Ms. Pitts has been wonderful to work with, and I believe I was one of the board members that has consistently said that she's helped put us in a much better position. I was very happy to hear that she would stay on through this budget. Just another testament to how dedicated she is to her work and the true professionalism that she brings to this role. So greatly appreciate everything she's done for us, and we'd be lucky to find somebody even close to as good as she is. And my children right now would be slotted to go to middle school East, and it's a bummer they won't get to experience that with Mr. Rupert, but hopefully we can find somebody that will be as energetic and enthusiastic about the role that as he has been. So thank you both for your service to the district. With that, we'll move to roll call vote.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Ms. Deeroff?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mrs. Denon?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Mrs. McWhorter?
Yes.
Mr. Foose?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
That concludes the itemized agenda. The next item we have is old business.
No old business.
We'll now move to public comment period number 2. Okay, I believe we have one person signed up, so as we get that up here, I will go ahead and read the little blurb that we have for public comment. On behalf of the school board, on behalf of the Board of School Directors, I would like to welcome you to this meeting. We welcome your attendance and input from stakeholders to assist us with making recommendations and decisions related to the Boyertown Area School District. The procedures and rules for public participation are detailed in BASD Board Policy 006. This document is available at the meeting and on the BASD website. Participants properly registered on the sign-up sheet will be recognized by the presiding officer. Public comment period number 2 is for those persons wishing to discuss an item not appearing on this evening's agenda. Participants must preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate. All statements, inquiries, or comments shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually, administrative team members individually, or school employees or members of the public individually. Note that we value and will not compromise the privacy of our students and staff. Please see us outside the realm of a public meeting if you have a concern about an individual staff member or student. If your public comment includes a question, Dr. Bedden or a member of his staff will be in contact with you to confirm your question and provide you with information. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and comment periods are limited to 30 minutes. Finally, note that we do record our board and committee meetings and we post them on YouTube with a link in our website. We request that if you do wish to take pictures or record this meeting yourself, that you do so in a non-disruptive and discreet manner and use those materials respectfully and responsibly. So it looks like this evening we have Mr. Tim Rotherwell.
Hello, board. My name is Tim Rothmel. I'm a teacher at Boyertown Middle School West. I'm here on behalf of a club that we run both at East and West called What's So Cool About Manufacturing. And we have a contest that starts tomorrow actually and runs for the next 3 days, and we're seeking your support as well as the community. So I'm just going to share a message that I sent to the district. So I'm a better writer than a speaker, so I'm going to just share my words. Boyertown Middle School East and West have been represented in this year's What's So Cool About Manufacturing contest. Students across 2 counties were asked to visit and promote the qualities of the varied opportunities in the manufacturing world. As a result of their visits, short videos were produced promoting specific industries in the area. While the contest is statewide, our Boyertown East and West students will participate with every other middle school across Berks and Schuylkill counties in several categories related to video production in hopes of advancing to state-level competition. This year, Boyertown Middle School East visited American Crane Company in Douglasville, and Boyertown Middle School West students visited Appealing Fruit in Dauberville near Leesport. One area that our students can benefit from your support and as many friends and connections as you have is the Viewer's Choice Award. You can help by following a few simple steps. Starting tonight at 12:01, voting opens at www.whatsocoolaboutmanufacturing.org. And on that page you'll find, I think, over 60 videos from the middle schools across these 2 counties. And if you find Boyertown East, Boyertown West, you can vote for them. You can vote as many times as you want. Vote, refresh, vote again. Please do so often. We appreciate your support. So you're allowed to vote starting, like I said, tonight at midnight, and it ends on Friday at midnight as well. We have those 3 days. The district has been great in promoting this. It's on the district webpage. Mrs. Moyer has been promoting it through our Facebook pages. So we want to get the word out. We love to hear people voting for our videos from across, hopefully, the country if we possibly can. So especially on Facebook, if you do vote for us from another state, another part of the country, another part of the world, please comment on there, hey, I voted from California or whatnot. But we hope to get as many votes as possible. And please check out these videos from all across the counties. They're great productions. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to board comments. Are there any board comments this evening? Ms. Denon?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up what Mr. Rothmel was talking about. If you go to our website, it's right there. It pops up. There's a link. You can see the videos, and then there's a link for you to vote. So we have it right on our Boyertown website.
Ms. Deeroff?
I just had a quick question about the coronavirus. Have we talked to the Department of Ed or to the CDC or anybody about this? I mean, I know it started in other countries, but we have 57 confirmed cases in the United States now. And I'd rather be proactive than reactive. And I wanted to know if we're doing anything about it or had training or...
Our school nurses did receive information, and right now there's nothing that we need to do. The way that it was presented to us is that you would really need to, they showed an airplane picture, and they had a person sitting in the middle seat, and they had that person as being contagious, and then they had people sitting on either side of them as being in a higher risk, but not completely, at risk. And then as they separated out the passengers on the airplane, they showed that, the same people that were sharing that same space were relatively safe. So right now what they're doing is they are educating us on the coronavirus so that we don't panic, and that we are just, encouraging people to continue to hand wash, much like they would for the flu that we see each year.
So are we sending something on with the children, like what the parents should look for, or?
We have not done.
It's not that far yet.
It is not that far yet. They just more or less gave schools information for ourselves at our administrative level, and for the nurses to share with us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And county-wise, just to add to, we obviously at the BCIU is monitoring, and they have it as part of our agenda discussion and updates that they provide to superintendents if they get any information also.
Ms. Deeroff? Do you want to? Mr. Brophy?
To the RFP, I look on here on our attachments, a lawn care RFP, is that going out yet, or is that just for us to look at?
Go ahead.
So Mr. Drescher sent that out to, I think, 7 companies, and the deadline for that is the 6th at noon. So what we'll be doing is tabulating those results, and then we'll have that item for presentation at the Finance, Facilities, and Operations Committee for discussion and decision. And I'm sure it's not going to be an easy decision. It'll be something we'll need to really look at, and unless the bids come back at $25,000, then it'll be a really easy decision, or the proposals. And then depending on what we decide to do at the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, then we'll move that forward to the March voting meeting. But since the contract ended, we need to make sure that we have mowing in place.
Okay, it's just I see some things that look like they may be inconsistencies on the RFP that might want to be addressed. Like, just for an example, there's one thing on there that says something about double cutting is free, but yet it says further up they're only required to do 4 cuttings in a month. So those 2 things could be. That's just one example. I mean, there's some things. I think the committee needs to look at that a little bit more and talk about, not here, but in a committee meeting. I'd like to see it on the committee agenda.
Yes, my understanding is that will be going to committee next. So it'll be discussed there.
Perfect.
There was a request to go to executive session. What is the topic? For personnel. So we will be going to executive session and returning for any other board comment at the conclusion of that.
I would probably say you need to finish.
Okay,
You can adjourn the meeting because I don't think there's any action that's necessary.
all right, so since we're at the board comment period, we're going to see if there's a motion to adjourn, and then we can go to executive session, and then we would not have to return. So we have a motion from Ms. Dieroff, second by Ms. Hogan. So we are adjourned. We are going to executive session, and we will not be returning this evening.